Hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
And Marianne.
And Marianne behind the camera. So tonight we're baking. And we are making a, get this, a butter bourbon cake. Okay? So that's what we're doing. And we're going to start with our dry ingredients. I've got 3 cups of flour here that have already been sifted once. And I'm going to put it back in the sifter. I don't know what I'd do without wax paper. Okay. So I got 3 cups of flour. I'm going to add to that a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay? So we got our salt, our leaveners in there, and 3 cups of flour. And we're just going to give this a quick sift here. And we'll have our dry ingredients. You getting this, babe?
Yes, I am.
Got a little George Shearing in the background. Okay, come on over here, and we're going to fire up the old Hamilton Beach. I'm going to start by creaming our butter here. So we just love these old mixers. We're going to get this. Okay. Very good. There we go. Now we're rocking. Okay. So now we're going to add our sugar. No, wait.
Yes.
Yes?
Gradually.
Gradually. I've got 2 cups of sugar here. And we're going to add our sugar gradually to the butter. Get this sort of creamed together. So cakes with liquor in it are sort of interesting. And this is a bourbon cake, so it's kind of a southern Kentucky recipe. Are you get seeing what's going on down here, honey?
Yeah.
So you can see we're gradually adding. Let me get that a little closer in there. Okay, I'm going to finish getting this butter and sugar cream together, and then we're going to come back. We got to put our eggs in and our dry ingredients. We're also going to sour up some milk because I don't have any buttermilk on hand, but we'll be right back. Okay, we've got our butter and we've got our sugar creamed together. Now we're going to add in our eggs, 1 at a time. So this recipe calls for 4 eggs. So in we go. Every time we get an egg in there, we want to make sure that it's beaten in well. Again, it's always good in baking to have those eggs at room temperature. So we took these out about half hour, 45 minutes prior to starting. I've also got a cup of milk here. calls for buttermilk or whole or sour milk. So I didn't have any buttermilk, so I made some sour milk by adding a tablespoon of white vinegar and then enough milk to make 1 cup and let it stand for about 10 minutes or so. And you see how thick the milk has become from the acid in the vinegar, and it is soured. Okay, 1 more egg. This is a great old Hamilton Beach mixer from the 1950s. And you can see she's still purring like a kitten, and she does a fine job. Old mixer for these old recipes, right, honey?
Right.
Okay.
To go along with the old stove.
So now, vanilla. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of vanilla into our sour milk. Mix that in. Okay. So now we've got vanilla sour milk. And we're going to start putting in our flour and our milk. We're going to start and end with the dry ingredients. So we're going to put in a little flour. Again, well, it's actually flour, salt, baking soda, baking powder. We're going to get that in the batter here. Then we're going to add a little bit of our sour milk and our vanilla. And then we're going to come back, put in a little bit more of our flour mixture, and so on. We're going to keep alternating back and forth until all the flour and all the milk is incorporated. And again, we started with the dry and we're going to end with the dry. So I'll finish this part and then we'll come on back. We're making a bourbon butter cake. Okay, just gave a little greasing here to our 10-inch tube pan. Here's our batter. Okay, so we finished putting in our milk and dry ingredients, ending with our dry ingredients. It's all well combined, and in the pan she goes. Spread it around. We want to get it as even as we can in the pan. All that good batter out of the bowl. We preheated the oven to 325. Is that right, Mary?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So the oven's at 325. There we go. So we're going to put it in for an hour. It may take even an hour and 5 minutes or so. So we'll get things cleaned up, we'll come back, and as the cake is still warm in the pan, we're going to make the beautiful bourbon butter sauce that's going to go on top and actually soak into the cake. Okay? It's a bourbon butter cake at Cavalcade Food. So we'll be back in a bit. Alright, so now our cake has been in for 1 hour and about 5 minutes. Just beautiful. Look at that. We are gonna set that there. And now we're going to put a sauce together. So we're going to start with a half a cup, which of course is 1 stick of butter, unsalted, and we're going to add a cup of sugar. Then this is our secret ingredient here. I'm going to put about 1/3 of a cup of bourbon. You can use your favorite. And basically we want this to come together. We do not want to boil this. We just want the butter to melt. And then of course the sugar will dissolve. We're going to keep on stirring, and then we are going to take just a fork over back to our cake, and we are going to poke holes in this cake. This is going to allow that sauce, that beautiful butter bourbon sauce, to get down into our cake. Okay, so I'm going to continue to move this around, let this butter melt, and then we'll be right back. We're going to lay the sauce over the cake, let it cool in the pan, and then we'll take it out. We'll be right back. We're doing the sauce for our butter bourbon cake. So, cake is still hot, and we're putting our hot sauce over the cake. And we're going to let this hot butter bourbon sauce permeate our warm cake. Let it soak in. While it's in the pan, it will have the opportunity to really soak into the cake. So we're going to let this soak, and then we'll be back and let it cool out before we remove it from the pan, okay? So we've got the rest of our sauce now, and I'm just letting it, you can see how it's soaked in, and I'm letting it get on the sides. There, look at that. It'll keep our, not only will it keep our cake moist, and so I'm going to let this do its thing. It'll just take time, but that butter bourbon sauce will, you can see how it's being soaked into it. Okay, we're going to let that continue to cool, and when it's cooled completely, we'll take it out of the pan. Okay, we've made a bourbon butter cake. There she is, the bourbon butter bourbon, however you say it, cake. It's still cooling. We've taken it out of the pan. You can see it's got a nice sugary butter bourbon crust around it. It's soaked into the cake. We're going to let this cool, and then I'll invert it onto a plate, maybe give it a little dusting with a nice powdered sugar, and that's all you need. So give this one a try, particularly if you like a cake that has a little something extra in it. So anyways, thanks for being a part of this one. Thanks, Mare, for working the camera, and we'll see y'all later. Bye!